So we know that already, with one rent check day having passed during this pandemic, the paltry stimulus that some people got, and many still are waiting to get, was not going to save people who have to pay rent. Sometimes, in a lot of parts of the country, rent is higher than that stimulus check anyway. Well, we're rapidly approaching another rent day, but this time, some activists are getting prepared for it with a national rent strike. So let's talk about some of the details. At least 400 families who live in buildings, each containing over 1,500 rent units, are coordinating building-wide rent strikes, according to Sia Weaver, campaign coordinator for Housing Justice for All. This is focused in New York City and Harlem and the Bronx. We have additionally, though, over 5,000 people have committed through an online pledge to refuse to pay rent in May. And the thing is, these are individuals who are saying they are not going to pay rent. There are obviously a lot of people who are going to participating due to their complete and utter inability to pay rent because so many millions of people have lost their jobs and the assistance that they've gotten from the government is wholly inadequate to make it so that they can afford. So this is pretty new. We haven't seen something this big, this wide scale in some time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what is happening in New York City, whether there's been a moratorium on evictions. But I'm super happy that there are actions like this happening because, listen, I think a lot of times in this country, we have to unlearn the fact that if we are left without a job due to a pandemic that our government didn't pay for, that somehow that's still our fault. Mm-hmm. I think in our really rugged individualistic ideology that we have, which of course is only applies to working people and not the like giant corporations, we're like, well, if it's your fault. Listen, if you can't pay rent, it's your fault. It's even if in the situation, I think these activists are saying absolutely not. It is not our fault. And look, my landlord or my building property manager, whoever, take it up with the government. Take it up with the state government, take it up with the federal government. It is not my fault. I cannot go to work and I don't have a job. And I wish that people like the protesters, who were defying stay-at-home orders would actually get on board with that because that is real. Look, if you can't go to work and you can't make money, I get it. Mm-hmm. Now don't add the 5G and white nationalism and Bill Gates crap on top of it, and maybe we could actually build something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to wonder, like it's been 4 weeks now since we've heard like any sort of like passion behind a drive for further stimulus. Like it was before the first of the month. What do they think is going to happen?
Yep.
Like, okay, maybe you have X families who are signing up saying they're not going to pay their rent. Do they think that the money is just going to miraculously appear from somewhere? Do they think that, like the polls that you've probably seen for years of the 40% of Americans who can't deal with a $450 economic emergency, do they think that a multi-$1,000 recurring emergency is somehow going to be easier to get past? When combined with the fact that literally millions and millions of people are losing their jobs every single week, and those are the ones who are lucky enough to actually get through to unemployment and be registered. God only knows how high the numbers are. Like the people in Washington seem to really be operating under the assumption that this is all fake, that this isn't real, because they're not doing anything about it. And right. So we're obviously concerned about the individuals, those who've lost their jobs, those who can't pay rent, those who can't pay their bills, who can't get food for their family, all of that stuff. But let's talk about the people that they actually care about. The landlords are not going to get paid, okay? The landlords thus might not be able to pay the mortgages on their buildings. Mm-hmm. People who can't pay their mortgages are going to get foreclosed upon. I understand that for some rich people that's amazing. That works out so well for them. But that is going to be another economic disaster. Like we're in the middle of one right now.
Yes.
Largely due to people losing their jobs and unemployment. But we're about to have a housing crash on top of it. All of this is looming, and I don't see almost anyone in DC, except for a couple people that we're going to mention in just a bit, who seem to be taking it seriously.
Yes. And I think it's our job, hopefully, when we do get out of our homes or when we, protest from a safe social distance, to make sure that the fallout from this doesn't fall on the same people once again. Because, I'm thinking about the 2008 bailout and the ways in which a problem that was created from the financial sector on these subprime mortgage loans and all that, which, obviously many people had to leave their homes. They were foreclosed upon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that led to just a further consolidation of big banks. So the question is now is, what is all this going to lead to? Is it going to lead to a consolidation, a further consolidation of the restaurant industry, or the manufacturing industry, or service sector, whatever it is, or retail industry, right? As if it weren't already crazy consolidated.
Yeah.
Or are the people going to demand something different?
I mean, I know one thing that could have influenced the direction that we go in, and it would be having a different candidate right now. That consolidation seems like it's coming. I mean, you pointed out the restaurants. That seems like that's going to be huge. I mean, we're effectively living out Demolition Man right now, because Taco Bell might be the only one that survives this by the end of it. All restaurants are going to be Taco Bell. And honestly, the feeling that I'm getting, have you seen Brewster's Billions? Have you seen that movie?
No,
so
I have not.
It's this guy is going to inherit billions of dollars, but before he can do that, he has to spend, I don't know, 50 million without donating. He has to spend it in a very limited amount of time. So it's about excess and stuff like that to achieve a weird end, which is running out of money effectively. Well, what they're doing right here is like, let's see how much money we can throw at rich people specifically to create a revolution, an uprising across America, because at some point, people need to eat. At some point, people are going to be thrown out of their homes. The only thing that's forestalling some of this is the fact that some states and cities have done eviction, stops on evictions that we talked about. If not for that, how many people would be newly homeless in the past month? I don't even know. It's scary to even think about. Now, I do want to mention a couple of the people who are talking about this. You have from the beginning, representatives like AOC. She said today, I think it was, I want everyone to know that the White House, Mnuchin, McConnell, and Congress know that there is a housing crisis looming due to inaction on rent and mortgage relief. If we don't act ASAP, millions could face foreclosure and eviction. Dems have plans to stop it. It's being blocked. Representative Ilhan Omar tweeted, rent is due on May 1st. The American people need help now, and she has a bill designed to do that.
Nice.
But while the situation we have right now is infuriating, I want to add one little extra set of facts on top of it that is just about the most infuriating thing that I've seen, because we have been in this together for a couple of months now of just an absolute disaster. For many people, they've seen what little savings they had evaporate, their future plans evaporate, businesses lost, all of that. During that same time, U.S. billionaires have increased their wealth by $280 billion.
Stop.
Not since the beginning of the year, since March. Jeff Bezos, between January 1st and April 15th, his fortune has increased by $25 billion during a massive economic recession. During the stock market diving off a cliff, I've been led to believe. He is worth far more. And many billionaires have added at least $1 billion to their wealth, including Elon Musk, who I'm pretty sure has done nothing but tweet during all this, so I don't know how he's getting billions of dollars. But some people are doing very, very well.
Oh, those billionaires are buying Teslas. It makes sense.
Maybe.
It is alarming when outlets like the New York Times are saying the stimulus budget, the new stimulus budget, this 3.5 stimulus budget does not go far enough, right? Like you can sort of take your cues when you're reading those outlets, and they're saying that there is not enough money for hospitals. There's not even enough money for comprehensive testing, and there sure isn't enough money to actually help people survive this. And AOC being the only House member to vote against the stimulus budget tells you a lot, right, about who's actually trying to strong arm the Republicans. Because listen, I don't envy Democrats, and I'm not saying that Democrats, I don't think that they could get anything that they want passed, because again, they're bargaining with people who do not believe in government, who believe that you're on your own, you're on the street, great. You didn't have a plan for a pandemic? Don't look to the government to help you. You know, you got to wean yourself off that, pull yourself up by the, you don't have any bootstraps? You know, boots, cool. Like that's who they're negotiating with. But it is striking when you know that the numbers, for example, not just for billionaires, but for millionaires, or the majority of Congress people are millionaires.
Yeah.
How? Why? You know, insider trading, been in power for too long. But yes, it is going to get a lot worse, and we have ourselves to rely on, and that sounds really scary, but I do think refocusing on local elections, local races, and just like, mutual aid and community support and organizations that are doing real work. Like, there are people out there. I don't want folks to despair, because looking at the federal level, there's a lot to despair over.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons we want to talk about this, is that there are activist organizations that are helping to put this together, because they care about the people who are being hurt. And at the same time, yeah, I'm glad that you point out how many of them are millionaires. How many representatives right now are worried about paying their rent in 4 days? 0? I'm assuming 0. I'm going to put out 0 as the answer to that. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.